It appears the bait and switch has already begun before Biden even begins his term. So now, yesterday, Joe Biden, president-elect, has released his new coronavirus stimulus package. Now, there are some good things in it. There's some fantastic things in it, actually. But there's one thing that, well, it kind of goes back in a central promise, and that's not good. Now, the proposal itself is around $1.9 trillion, so it's not as big as some of the other coronavirus stimulus packages that have been passed through the House of Representatives, for example. But it is slightly bigger, obviously, than the Republican plans that we have seen. So, what's in it? Well, in it, Biden would increase the federal boost to the jobless, the unemployment, to about $400 a week, up from $300. That's actually less than the CARES Act, which was $600. So that's not good. He also extended payments along with two key pandemic unemployment programs through September. Okay, that is good. It would continue to provide benefits to the self-employed, independent contractors, gig workers, and certain people affected by the pandemic. There would also be an additional $25 billion in rental assistance. So that's $50 billion total. Now, still, there were recent reports that said that Americans are over $70 billion behind in rent. And so this is still not going to solve the problem, although it gets a little bit closer. So another $5 billion would be helped to set aside struggling renters pay their utility bills. Biden is also calling for $5 billion to help states and localities assist those at risk of experiencing homelessness. And so basically, again, there's good stuff in it, but it feels like half measures. Okay, it's not quite enough to meet the need, and to me, that doesn't seem smart, considering how right now we're in the worst part of the pandemic, and I mean, and the fact that they are going to have control of the White House, and the Senate, where they can actually go really big and set us up to, when we reopen, to have a massive stimulus to go and have people go out and resume spending, resume life, and really build the economy back up to where it should be, to better than before. I mean, your whole thing was supposed to be Build Back Better, but if you go too light on stimulus, we're not going to really do that. We're not going to get to that position. And so that's what I'm concerned about. And that's going to have electoral implications down the line as well, as you're going to have Republicans running on the quote-unquote poor economy, which is, going to affect them in 2022, 2024. And so that's the other thing that I'm concerned about. Nonetheless, more stuff. The plan would extend the federal eviction moratorium, set to expire at the end of January, to September 30th. Again, that's positive. As well as allow people with federally guaranteed mortgages to apply for forbearance until September 30th. Okay. Now, there's additional food aid as well, 15%. Increase in food stamps, additional billions of dollars for vaccines and testing, small business relief, paid leave, subsidies for health insurance for people who have lost their health insurance through work. And the big one is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's interesting, it being part of this bill. So I guess you could look at it like, well, he's trying to put this in. This would be smart, so that when people start to get back to work or are able to get back to work, they're going to have a higher minimum wage, and that's good. And I support raising the minimum wage. And it's actually a pretty bold proposal to put inside of a coronavirus relief package. So I think it gives credit for that. That's a Bernie Sanders idea that Biden has adopted. That's good. That's good. It's also getting rid of the tipped minimum wage as well. So, but what's missing here? Well, what's missing is a central promise that was made during not only the campaign, but also, I should say less, I guess more of after the campaign, after President Trump picked up on the $2,000 idea, then, of course, the Democrats, Pelosi, and then Biden followed up by promising $2,000. But really, it was stressed during the Senate runoff over in Georgia. Hey, if you vote for Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, we're going to give you $2,000 in coronavirus stimulus to help you and your family. Well, it worked. It was effective. And yet, Now, this is calling for not $2,000, but $1,400. So now they're doing this trick, though. It's like, well, and I remember Biden saying this, the $600 that we're, supporting in this bill, the last coronavirus stimulus, that's a down payment. I guess he meant in a literal sense, because they're offering $1,400. And they're saying, well, if you add $1,400 to $600, then you're going to get $2,000. See? We did it. See? Promises kept. No. That's a BS politician move. Bait and switch, not good. Look, I remember the Democrats explicitly saying, vote for us, we're going to give you a $2,000 check. Well, people did. We won because of it. Okay? And it was something that even had Republicans on board. And yet, didn't happen. And here's the thing, too. There's no reason that we can't do that. Again, Republicans cannot stop us from passing a $2,000 stimulus check. Bernie Sanders is the head of the budget committee. He can do this through a process called budget reconciliation. He doesn't have to have additional Republican votes. Could do that through a simple majority, but they refuse to do that. The Democrats have to shoot themselves in the foot with some technocratic nonsense in order to, of course, try to appeal to Republicans. I mean, here's the other thing. Like, I don't personally need that. This isn't for me. I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay. All right. But what about the American people who are not doing okay? There are millions of people out there that are struggling that $1,400 or just $2,000. And remember, that's a compromise. $2,000 is a compromise. The one-time check. They're not doing so well. They need that additional money to help them survive and catch up. And then once the pandemic is over, begin to thrive and spend money again. It's a dumb move, okay? I mean, you made a promise, a campaign promise that you were within your power to do, and you refused to do it. And it got people out to vote. Now what are your voters going to think? Already there are articles out polling this out, okay? Here's New York Magazine's Eric Levitz. Here's what he tweeted about this. So heretofore, $2,000 checks have meant increasing the size of the $600 check by $1,400. When Dems talk about $2,000 checks now, is that what they mean? Or do they mean bringing up the total to $2,600? I've also seen tweets saying, well, I mean, you'll be lucky if they don't just give you $200 because, the first $1,200 check plus the $600 check plus the $200 equals $2,000. We got you $2,000 checks. Oh my God, it'd be so dumb. On Thursday, writer and freelance journalist David Misner also tweeted this in response to Biden's $1,400 proposal. Quote, looks like Biden is breaking his promise of $2,000 checks. Vanessa B., editor at Current Affairs, also tweeted, quote, I, for one, am sure the American people will be relieved when it realizes when Biden said $2,000 checks would go out the door if Dems won Georgia, he meant the difference between whatever the Trump administration happened to issue in January and $2,000. If they get mad, we will simply print out the line buried in the fourth paragraph of the December Politico article and show it to them. Yes, that will go over quite well, I can imagine. Yes. Again, I said $2,000 is the compromise. Really, honestly, I think the American people should have received $2,000 monthly payments retroactive to the start of the pandemic. They can do that now. They have the power to do that now, but they won't because they're agreeing with the Republicans. They're agreeing with people like Joe Manchin who say that, oh, no, why should rich people get $2,000 a month? Why should we do that? Well, here's the thing about that. And Mitch McConnell was making that same argument against the one-time $2,000 check. Oh, rich people are going to get it. And here's the thing. You can just tax that back. If a rich person, if Jeff Bezos receives a $2,000 check for the next 6 months from the government, you know what the government can do? They can tax $2,000 back from Amazon. That's how that works. If somebody who doesn't currently need the money gets the money, you just tax it. It's not like there's not a finite supply of, or it's not that there isn't there's a finite supply of money, okay? The Federal Reserve can print it from thin air, literally. Money printer go burr. And I know some people will ask, well, what about inflation? If you print too much money, you're going to have inflation. Well, that's what taxes are for. Taxes literally take that money out of circulation, which prevents too much money from being in circulation at a time, which stops an inflation or slows it down. The whole point of the stimulus is to get people to spend money that they either don't have due to job loss during this pandemic, obviously, or have been saving for an emergency and have been spending on things like, you know, bills, okay? And you do that by giving them more money. You need liquidity to be in the markets to create and sustain demand. And if you want to get an economy back on its feet following a crisis, which we're in a crisis, then giving people money directly in the form of direct checks is actually quite effective. It's better than, you know, means-tested programs or tax credits. It's immediately getting money into the hands of the people that need it the most. That's how it works. Slate's Jordan Weissman argued this on Wednesday as well, that Biden should not weaken his coronavirus relief proposal with the goal of attracting bipartisan support. Quote, "Don't worry about doing too much, worry about doing too little, and about making sure that voters know you've come to the rescue. One danger is that the president-elect's desire for bipartisanship will get in the way of his instinct to act at the moment. Biden reportedly wants to pass the next COVID relief bill with GOP support, rather than using budget reconciliation process to enact it through a party line vote. Will he pare back parts of his agenda to win cooperation from Mitch McConnell and company, or burn precious time cajoling Republican senators who might not come along? Hopefully not, as says Weissman. Now, what do I see happening? Well, I see the exact situation that he didn't want to happen happening. I see either a wasting of time trying to convince Republican senators who are now austerity minded. So understand, like, when the stock market was going bad, the Republicans were like, what? No. National debt? No, we're not worried about that. Pass it now, pass it now. But then when the, $1,200 checks, here you go. But then when the stock market was okay, and now that the Democrats are going to take over, Republicans are suddenly remembering, oh, right, we're supposed to be fiscally conservative. We're supposed to argue for austerity. And so austerity helps them politically, by the way, because if the economy does not grow under Democrats or grows slowly, they can use that as a tool against Democrats in the upcoming elections. Mitch McConnell's used that a lot. He's used that a lot, quite a bit, actually. And so, yes, I think he's going to use that again because it's an effective tactic. And so they've got no reason to support $2,000 checks. They've got no reason to support a coronavirus stimulus bill. Again, the thing that they put up, Mitch McConnell had put up, had no stimulus in it. It was basically just giveaways to corporations. And that's it. And corporate liability as well. And so McConnell, Hawley, Graham, in my view, they're going to talk about austerity even more so than before, and how we just can't afford to do this. We just can't afford to do it. We're going to have to open up the country and make the stimulus smaller. And Biden's going to try to work with that. And again, we're either going to waste precious time and shove it through with a party line vote, or Biden will chuck out more in the bill in order to appease Republicans, which is going to harm a lot of people. And of course, the Republicans, every time they do that, they usually end up not voting for that bill anyway, and it ends up being a party line vote. So here we go again. We're going to end up doing, and this is what I fear, too little for the millions of Americans who are struggling right now and need this money. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.